So my original research question was, what causes depression and why is it so common amongst teens these days? But as my research progressed, it more so became, what is depression? Because I realized that I wanted to know what it is, what causes it, and how to prevent or cure it. I also delved into research on anxiety and how it contributes to and affects depression, primarily in teens, as that seems to be where depression is the most common, or at least starts most frequently. So yeah, this is a study on depression in teenagers by John Gibran. So in order to learn more about depression, I conducted multiple forms of research. I created a survey for teens in Randolph High School that 31 students responded to. I also interviewed the RHS school psychology teacher as well as 2 of the school psychologists. I did some online research, and I also directly interviewed a student that is going through depression who will remain anonymous. So first off, what is depression? Depression is being stuck at a constant low in mood or outlook or feelings and being unable to do much about it. It affects thoughts, feelings, behavior, physical health, and pretty much everything in their lives. It primarily affects teens because of all the changes happening in their lives in terms of body, mind, and environment, but it can still affect anyone of any age. Depression is when the sadness affects how one functions. They might not want to get out of bed in the morning, and they feel they have no joy or pleasure in life. 29% of students surveyed are 100% sure that they are being affected by depression. That's a large amount, over a quarter. 45% of the students surveyed did not answer no when asked if depression is affecting their life, so they answered yes or somewhat. And 33% of those students, the majority, attribute the cause to a constant feeling that the entire world is against you and judging you, and you can't do much about it. So what causes depression? Well, in regards to the science, it affects the neurotransmitters in the brain, or what causes thoughts and whatnot inside one's brain and causes them to malfunction, which causes depression. A molecule in the brain called serotonin is responsible for managing one's mood, so a lack of it causes depression. In fact, not having enough of it for one day can cause any normal individual to become depressed. Teenagers are very susceptible to depression due to all of the changes happening in their lives, bodies, experiences, etc., and is more likely to occur in females, but it's still completely possible in males. Depression can be genetic, spawning from one's parents or other family members, and it often goes hand in hand with anxiety, and one often ends up producing or worsening the other. It can be caused by traumatic events in one's life, such as death, breakup, medical procedure, illness, etc. Some other life events include grief and loss, separation anxiety for young children, and going to school. As a matter of fact, about 32 of the surveyed students spend at least 3 hours on schoolwork out of class each day. That's nearly 1/3. Other events are divorce, relationships, romantic or otherwise, and breakups. A lot of the time it can be things beyond one's control, sometimes significant change or transitions, and sometimes it can be drugs or alcohol, which might be taken in order to relieve the pain, but it actually makes everything much, much worse. Some or all of these might pile up to result in depression, but also some people are too quick in labeling themselves as anxious or depressed. Another large cause is texting or social media or general screen time, and about 39% of the surveyed students use their devices for social media or social interaction very frequently, and about 42% are usually on their devices for some other reason. That's a large majority, nearly half, and if that many students are on their devices like this, then it's no wonder that the levels of the frequency of depression in people is rising. But sometimes it's just the pressures of being a teenager, and the constant demands of the modern era are not good and not helping this major problem. How one is raised is also likely a major factor in depression, as shown by the fact that all of the students surveyed that attributed their depression to a constant feeling that the entire world is against you and judging you have also not had the best treatment from their parents, some cases being worse than others. In regards to the student that I surveyed, their depression started from a rumor. A stupid rumor that they had no control over, that simply started from them acting like themselves and how they wanted to be, but it was twisted out of proportion and is still affecting them to this day. It then persisted from mental and verbal abuse and stress from parents, the majority of school, life, and people in general. It's also genetic. It runs in their family, and was triggered in middle school from the rumor and increase in school pressure to do well. The bullying made the entire thing worse, and their anxiety created a burning constant fear that everyone was against them. So what are some of the effects and symptoms of depression? One big one is a loss of interest in activities they once enjoyed. Also feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. They have trouble sleeping. And in fact, out of the surveyed students, the biggest way depression has been affecting them is sleep loss. Not wanting to leave their house or do anything, just stay in bed, not having the will or desire to get up. Those are two of the biggest causes of depression, and because of this, it creates a vicious cycle where they don't want to get out of bed or socially interact, making their depression even worse. Sometimes it causes people to be unable to focus or concentrate in class or in general. They have low self-esteem and feel worthless. Sometimes thoughts of death spawn, or the individual experiences significant weight change. In either direction. And also restlessness and irritability. Many suicides from depression simply begin as thoughts of who would even care or miss me, or I don't want to have to get up or do anything. And slowly the pain inside of them builds up, and they cannot live with all these thoughts of death and self-hatred and pain. They do not actually want to die, but it is difficult, often nearly impossible, for them to see the light in their lives. They just want to escape the pain. So how does one combat depression? Well, unfortunately, as my friend, the internet, and the professionals I interviewed have informed me, depression does not go away. It is a medical problem like cancer or diabetes or addiction. It can be fought and made better, but it cannot go away permanently. It sticks around for one's entire lifetime and must be battled for just as long. Some ways to fight depression are sleep and good rest, decrease screen time, perhaps medication if necessary, or therapy and talking to a professional. Even sunlight has been shown to help depression. As a matter of fact, sunlight, exercise, and improving one's diet are all things that can be done to increase one's serotonin, which greatly helps in the battle against depression. However, it ultimately differs from person to person. My friend does several things to fight their depression, some positive and some negative, but primarily done just to get their mind off of it. This includes eating far too often and listening to music. They also have a therapist, and they tried going to their friends as a way to not think about it, but it didn't always work due to their friends not always being the best people. I pray that I myself have made some sort of positive impact in their life, as I can thankfully still call myself their friend. The most important thing to do if one has depression is to talk to someone about it. It is much stronger to talk and confront the problem than to try and deal with it oneself, especially if that road involves drugs or alcohol. However, 65% of the students that believe depression has been deeply affecting their lives are unsure if their coping methods have even worked. This may be because it is still early in their lives, but they are still unsure. Now, most people think depression is simply a state of mind. However, they are wrong. It is a medical condition that does not simply go away. One way we can help those experiencing this terrible disorder is by realizing this and actually doing something about it. I did this topic in order to educate myself so that I can recognize this horrible condition inside of a person and be able to understand how they feel and help them in every way possible. I hope this has done the same for you.